Hello, everybody. We're back. I'm Tom Sosnoff, and I'm here with Dylan Radigan. Mr. Radigan, how are you?
Very good, very good. Nice to be seeing you. Happy Wednesday to you. Marking time. Watching my GameStop puts.
You are not watching your GameStop puts. I don't believe you for 1 second.
I could be.
I don't believe you.
Well, somebody's watching their GameStop puts somewhere.
Let's just see here. I'm just looking at the well, GameStop's actually just rallied back a little bit. It's rallied up, like $5. Some of these meme stocks have had a little bounce. I mean, this market's crazy strong today, but whatever. It's Wednesday. It's 1:02 in the afternoon in Central Time, and you're talking GameStop. You're talking GameStop, which means you're talking meme stocks, which means you must have.
You're talking gibberish, talking nonsense, talking turkey.
It kind of means you must have some kind of an axe to grind. So give it to me. What do you got?
Well, first of all, this is not at all what the stock. This is a joke. Full stop. This is an absurdity, a travesty, a chicanery.
A chicanery.
So let's just get that. Yeah, it's all those things are in there. It's just it's a lot of issues.
Okay.
Most importantly, it is not indicative of anything relevant to financial anything. It is a social media phenomenon that has overtaken a stock that we all know and love. But it's interesting because I feel like so much of there's so many issues that this brings up because it's, again, is it the retail trader? Obviously, it's not the retail trader when you look at the activity, the real volume. It's, some sort of mix of social media with institutional behavior. The brokerages, I think you made this point yesterday very astutely, that have learned a huge lesson from the last time around in terms of how they're handling clearing and margin and sort of leverage and which is much safer this time around, obviously. But what's most interesting to me is the sense that there's like a political aspect to this. And I don't mean in the sense of like lefty righty, but just in the sense of it's like, oh, this is a way to screw the man, right? Like it's like that it's somehow buying or selling GameStop is a way to get one over on the man, right? Going back to the age-old desire to get out from underneath the man, to screw the man, to give the man what he's got coming, whoever the man may be at the end of the day. But I just find it interesting that the meme stock behavior in some ways is tied to a political sentiment towards rebellion against the man. And I recognize that you'll say, listen, this is great for engagement. I completely agree with that, right? So across the headline, like, that's undisputed. So for me, that becomes less interesting. Clearly, it's good for engagement. It's good to create people for a list of reasons, right? Especially when the market's up as much as it is today. But I'm sort of fascinated by the meme stock as a mechanism for the man, or the mechanism for those who perceive themselves to be those who bear a resentment against the man, whether they're whoever, for whatever reason, for some reason view buying or selling GameStop as a way to get revenge against the man. And I'm sort of curious about how you view, like, what your interpretation of some of these behaviors, particularly the good, the bad, and the ugly here. I mean, there's much to be said. So I'll get out of the way and let you comment. But I just find it fascinating that this is not the stock market, that it's using the stock market as a mechanism for some sort of an emotional problem, or like a resentment of some kind, which I find entertaining. Thus, I bought some put.
I think I think there's some. I think that's fair. I'm not sure that it's political. Um, I do think it is.
Social. I want the political makes it sound like Trump, Biden.
Yeah,
I don't mean
right.
it's like a
Right.
social phenomenon.
Yeah,
I guess would be a
yeah,
different way to say it.
yeah. I think it is a social phenomenon, and I do find that interesting. And I think rebellion, rebellion's good because usually, throughout history, the history of those, and it doesn't happen all the time, but the history of those who rebel tends to be that you know the, they rebel now and then in the short term in the future they're kind of the modern day heroes, and that's the beauty of rebellion. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes they're in jail because they're idiots. Sometimes the cause was idiotic. I mean, there's lots of things. I mean, Wall Street has definitely had its. Wall Street is when you think about targets, like Wall Street is the easiest, biggest, fattest, dumbest target out there, slowest moving. And there is nobody in the whole world other than those on Wall Street, and Wall Street being this big encompassing, mechanism. There's nobody out there that would come to the rescue of Wall Street other than, the handful of people on Wall Street on relative terms. So they're not going to get a lot of support from a lot of places. I don't think most people understand what happens in the world of finance, and so I think that you're right. I think this is a social movement, and back in 2021, that's why it was transformational. Back in 2021, that's why it was so cool. I think there's been lots of these movements throughout the years, though, and to a certain extent, I think that's what digital assets were. That's really what Bitcoin was.
Oh, for sure. That the social, for sure that.
Yeah,
right?
but the difference is that there's this incredible technology that sits behind the blockchain, that sits behind the creation of digital assets. There's like a certain amount of genius. I don't know that there's a certain amount of genius that sits behind, the roaring kitty using that just as kind of an all-inclusive, just a name. But I don't think there's a certain kind of genius there. I don't think there's anything kind of special. I think it's almost like a folk hero of sorts. It's the Dogecoin of, Roaring Kitty is the Dogecoin.
The spring of 24.
Yeah. I thought this would be very short-lived. It was very short-lived. It was basically, we're talking a day or so. I'm not going to read very much into it other than I do believe that it sends one incredibly important message that nobody has really talked about. And that is that the amount of capital willing to go, the amount of speculative capital on the sidelines. This is not cash on the sidelines that's looking for a passive vehicle. The amount of cash on the sidelines that is looking for speculation is just ginormous. And it's grown over the last couple of years. It hasn't gone down at all. It's just gone up. And that numbers continue to grow. And I feel like there is this hidden demand for speculation that most people can't even they can't fathom. They have no idea how big it is. It's way bigger than what anybody thinks.
If you can find the right way to tease them out of the cave, there's a lot more in there than anyone could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason this stuff is even in play on any level is simply because that there's just this. It's a crazy amount of cash. It's just a crazy amount of money that's sitting there, and it's just dying to do anything. And it doesn't. And they all know how stupid it is. Like nobody's sitting out there going, "Oh man, this one tweet of one picture of what." Everybody knows it's all a joke. What they're all thinking is, at least I'm early on the joke.
I just, on the one hand, listen, I can be cynical with this or I can be optimistic, but the cynical part of me feels like the strength of the engagement and the wildness of the movement in the meme stocks, at least for a couple of days here, is actually evidence of how disillusioned a certain segment of the population is. That they don't feel that sort of traditional work or traditional investment really provides meaningful opportunity. So they then migrate towards the absurd.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of people that don't trust the tradition. I don't think there's a lot of people that trust this, that don't. I think there's a lot of people that don't trust the system, that don't trust tradition, that don't trust finance, that don't trust investments. And I think they have good reason, because for years they've been lied to and ripped off, and they've been, they've been fee structured to death. And I think I think that's all reasonable. And I don't see that attitude changing. So sure, I mean, if that was you, you'd take the speculative route. No question about it.
Is there a failure of the regulators in this? Is there a failure of the efficient? What about the efficient? Is this a reflection of an inefficient market?
No, in fact, it's an incredibly efficient market. I read a couple of articles that said, just in the last couple of days, that talked about, kind of the death of the efficient market theory, and this being the use case for the death of efficient market theory. And I would argue it couldn't be more wrong. This is the validation of efficient market theory. It took 2 days. This was a 2-day thing. And I don't see this,
2 days to what?
2 days to normalize.
To flip it back on its tail?
Yeah. 2 days to go right back to where we were, essentially. I mean, GameStop's a little bit higher, but not much, $6 or whatever, or $8. This was a 2-day phenomenon. And therefore that's why efficient market theory works. I think the most interesting thing for me is, and again, I'm just going to harp on this because I don't think people grasp what's behind this, is that there is an incredible amount of speculative capital on the sidelines because people they don't believe in, or they're not comfortable with, the traditional investment strategies and ideas and market structure and everything else. So they'd rather take a shot and feel like they have better chance. It's almost like you go to Vegas and you go play one hand instead of playing for 10 hours. And I think it's kind of the same kind of mentality. Listen, if I sit here for 10 hours, I'm going to lose. If you come with $1,000, you sit there for 10 hours, you're going to lose all $1,000. But if you take one shot, it's 50-50. You know what? You can turn your 1,000 to 2,000. That's the whole thing. That's what people do in Vegas all day long. And I think that's what people are thinking with respect to the markets too.
I agree with that, but I think that's not an indication. I think that's an indication of weakness and sickness relative to the system.
It is.
Or confidence.
Sure, it is.
That if people are like, listen, if I play by the rules, I'm guaranteed to lose.
Yeah.
So I might as well play this wild, go to the wild monkey end of the room. Yeah. Because at least there's a chance I can get a 10-to-1 payout.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. That is the phenomenon that known as meme stocks. That was the whole cryptocurrency. That was cryptocurrency. Right. Yeah. That's why all these kids jumped into, digital assets and cryptocurrency, because they felt the exact same way. Listen, I don't have enough money or time to be a lifetime passive investor, so I'm going to wing it because, you know what, with 200% volatility or 100% volatility, they don't understand the volatility piece, but just so it makes sense to all Tasty Nation, that they understand how fast you can go from 1 to 2 with 100% volatility, or with 200% volatility, like GameStop had last 2 days. It was 250% or 400 in the front month. That means you got 4 times the upside, 1 time the downside. Sure, go for it. That's it. That's all it is.
If there's a generation that has lost confidence in traditional markets or traditional investing methodology, where is the opportunity that lies between the death of the traditional methodology and the crazy town?
Well, it all, we're in the process of doing it. Like, I feel like it's all technology. So if you give people technology, you essentially democratize, everything. And that's what's happening. That was what essentially, to an entire generation, that's what Robinhood did. They basically gave access through app-based technology to the markets, which is why they had that virality. And to an older generation of boomers and Gen Zers, whatever else it is, that's what Tasty did. And that's what Thinkorswim did, and we built that. They gave access to markets and strategies that nobody ever had access before, essentially to all markets, and you change the playing field. Now, that's not global yet on any stretch, and it hasn't become, it's still a minuscule portion of the business, 1, 2, 3%. That's it. But the reality is that's how you do it. You do it through content, and you do it through technology, and you change everything. But you need a virality kicker. You basically have to get the story out, and that's not easy because nobody's going to write a puff piece for you. So you have to do it some way yourself. I don't know how to do that.
And so, but I would say that the meme stocks are an opportunity to sort of, for the challenger brokerages, if we want to call Tasty or Robinhood that.
Sure.
But at the same time, I wonder whether this really just represents total alienation from anything traditional, including even the most sophisticated piece of technology.
I would say no, but I don't know. I think that I think that in 2021 there was a little bit different spirit. It was more rebellious. It had a little bit more. There was a little bit more of a psychological side to it. There was a lot more intent. There was vigor. There was a lot of passion. You've got none of that this time around. None of it. Now it's greed. It's greed on top of greed on top of greed, and you don't have the same kind of limited flow.
The social forces are not there.
No, the social forces are not there, and the professional / greed forces take over. I think it's a very different world. And I'm not suggesting that we couldn't have something like that happen again with something else. It's just I don't see this time around with GameStop and AMC, that kind of thing.
Are you trading inside of any of this? And if you are you doing it with what thesis or what filter are you using to evaluate opportunity or risk in the context of an absurd situation?
I have not done anything. I traded a little bit of GameStop, a little bit of AMC, and they were both meaningless positions. I made money in all of them, but they were just crappy little things. I traded a reasonable amount of Reddit. Again, just having a little kind of more fun than anything else. I wasn't really serious about any of the plays. I don't think the markets were that liquid. I don't think the opportunity was that great. I kind of learned my lesson the last time around, so I'm going to say that I did not participate in any way, shape, or form. Last time around, I did. This time around, I sat in the sidelines.
And are you inclined to get involved at this point, or you're happy to leave it alone for the time being?
I don't think the markets are good enough to get involved. I think the markets at the very best are a little below average, and at their worst, are way below average. So I am not somebody that likes to trade in below average markets. I don't think they're attractive to anybody. Bid-ask differentials are high. I just don't see it as an interesting play for me at all.
Because the markets themselves are not, because of the width of this, the actual functioning of the markets are so lousy, basically, more than anything else.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the width of the markets are, I'm just taking a look right now to see if they've tightened up at all. But, you know, when you look at the at the money strikes right now, the at the money strike, GameStop is $36, $37, and the markets are a little over $1 wide. And I mean, to be fair, it's pretty untradeable. Now it's a 280% volatility in the front month in June with a $26 expected move. You can sell the 100 calls and I was going to say the 100 calls and like I don't know, 20 puts or something. Well, no, it's a little bit lower than that. But I mean, the amount of premium outside the expected move is it's massive.
Before I move on to another topic, is there any, what would you say is the most, is there any material takeaway or headline from the reemergence of the meme stock, either as an indication of the social political situation in this world or anything else? Markets.
The takeaway is what I said earlier. The takeaway is simply that there's an appetite for this kind of speculation that is waiting in the weeds. It's just sitting out there. It so wants to play, you know, and it's just, it hasn't happened. They haven't found the perfect vehicle yet.
Do you think that vehicle could be? There was a moment. Remember? Gosh, it must have been longer ago than I would want to admit. But maybe at least 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the Chinese stock market went cuckoo bananas with engagement.
Yeah.
And there was a sort of sense that it was a cultural shift where the number of participants. And so when you see something like this, you get a sense that it's possible that you could have a new generation that is extremely engaged in financial markets, but they're not going to play in the traditional manner. Do you think there's a way that they would play that's not in the memes, that's not a meme stock?
I don't think that they're ever going to play, that the younger generations are ever going to play in a traditional manner ever again. It's never going to happen.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I think you're going to see very dramatic changes in finance over the next decade. And I don't think that we're ever going back to the way things were. I think that, you know, I mean, I don't want to go down in that kind of down that path or down that rabbit hole, but I don't think anything looks the way things look today. I think nothing looks like this a couple of years from now.
Meaning that the percentage of assets that are managed in the historical way compared to the way they'll be managed over the next 10 years, there's going to be a dramatic change in asset management, basically.
A dramatic change in strategy, a dramatic change in asset management, a dramatic change between the relationship between risk and risk on and risk off. Yes, all the above. And people are going to look at things very differently. The portfolios are not going to be the portfolios of today. It cannot happen. It's not going to happen.
And where do you think who's most vulnerable to that? Which institutions stand to lose? Obviously, Tasty stands to benefit, and there's lots of other Tasty competitors that stand to benefit from that. Who's the biggest loser in that shift? At least what category, what institution, if you don't want to name names, I suppose, but what institutions?
I mean, BlackRock, Fidelity, Schwab, State Street, Vanguard. I think all their times are over. I think those are the firms that stand to lose the most. I think the firms that are best positioned, in this space are the firms that cater to, self-directed investors, individual investors, and like I'd rather be long Robinhood than Schwab, let's just say, or Interactive Brokers rather than, Schwab or E-Trade
or Tasty over JP Morgan.
yeah, sure. I wouldn't want to be long JP Morgan under any circumstances.
Well, but that's a different issue. That's a moral position.
Yeah, I know. I think you're going to see a dramatic shift. I think that is the coolest thing about the whole meme stock thing, is just that the demand, the interest, the level, where else can you find some no-name guy sitting, I mean, it's crazy. I said it this morning. Only Michael Jordan should be able to say I'm back, not some roaring kitty.
Roaring Kitty might be more powerful than Michael Jordan at this point. By what? How much money moved over the last 3 days? It's got to be billions, many billions, between all the meme stocks and all the equity.
I don't know much about how much money Michael Jordan has, nor do I know how much money Roaring Kitty has. But I'd be willing to bet on Michael all day and sell Roaring Kitty till that is one bet that I will mortgage my house on.
Is to take Jordan over Roaring Kitty?
Yes. In everything. I would be willing. That is not a hard bet. No.
All right. Enough about the meme stocks, unless you have something that you need to get off your chest. But not so far away from it. Is crypto a way to start bypassing traditional trade tariffs and whatnot? Like, I bring this up because Biden is jabbering about some China tariffs. The Trump-Biden debate schedule is getting announced, so we're going to start to go, and Trump for sure is going to blather on about tariffs. And I just wonder to the degree to which crypto actually represents a way to circumvent all of this, where I can just buy a car directly from China and pay with crypto.
Can I ask one question before that? Do we,
Sure.
as a country, should we really subject ourselves to the ridicule and embarrassment of a Trump-Biden debate? Like,
I mean, as an American living half-time in Italy, for all that is, in the name of all that is holy, I would wish that we would not do this, because it's such a degradation to the entire nation state.
Exactly.
That these two individuals are being put forth as the two options to lead the most powerful and most prosperous and most important and most inspiring nation on the earth, the world's oldest democracy, I might add. And this is what we're offering up.
Doesn't that just invite people to say, it's almost like you look at your competition and you go, that's what we're scared about. That's who we're up against. Like, it's just
no. It's like going to the Super Bowl and seeing that both of the teams are horrendous. Like, don't even know they don't even know where they are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got, I'm trying to hold back and not say something, but it's.
But I think you can rest assured, because 90% of the United States, some people have a point of view where they sort of, the loyalists, the 10% of the country that considers themselves mindless political loyalists, will say, "Oh, I want Trump or I want Biden." 9 out of 10 Americans in every poll prefers neither of these individuals, and is in a disbelief that the two choices they're presented with.
So a debate
this is not a risky position to take.
No. And a debate is just people watching. They want to see a train wreck. That's it. It's a NASCAR. It's NASCAR all over. They just want to see the final lap. They want to see somebody tap the other person and see what happens. There's not one thing that's going to be said that is new. There's not one thing going to be said that's important. There
won't be one thing said that anybody will believe.
Yeah, it's possible. Who knows? I mean, it's mind blowing to me. And yet we question the integrity of finance. I gave a lecture once and talked about this, and essentially it was on, one of the most amazing things. I grew up in the trading world, and everything was done kind of your word was everything in the trading pits, because if you didn't honor the trades, there was no way the trades would clear. Yet every day, billions and billions of dollars would clear because you make a trade, the trade clears. I feel like, I don't feel like it's possible to make a trade like with Trump, for example. You couldn't make a trade. You can't. It's not possible. Zero integrity. And with Biden, I'm not sure. I think the integrity is there. I'm not sure that he has a clear picture of what we're trying to do. So I just feel like
one guy doesn't understand where he is, even though he might be reliable, and the other guy knows exactly where he is, and he's explicit. His point of pride is that he's not reliable.
I don't know if he knows where he is either anymore. That's the whole problem.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And so I think that, I just think it's a bad situation for America. But when I think about our financial markets, and I think about where, we fight an integrity issue on our financial markets when we shouldn't. But getting back to your original question, is it all going to change? And is digital the way it's going to change? Probably.
Here's the interesting thing to me. I mean, especially look on a day like today, where the stock market is going full bonkers to the upside.
Yeah, full bonkers.
Even for all the concern and anxiety about these two political leaders vying for the presidency, the market does not seem concerned by either of them.
We talked about this the other day, Dylan. I mean, the reason the market doesn't seem concerned is because these two candidates are the best two candidates for the stock market. Trump and or Biden. Okay, it doesn't matter who it is, but this is the ultimate stalemate. This means there is no risk. Either one of these guys essentially pose no risk to the stock market into the foreseeable future. And that's why the stock market's at record highs.
Because neither one represents any intervention of any kind to do anything.
That's right. Neither one is capable of anything. They're not.
And the total lack of capability means that everyone will be left alone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The chances of 4 more years of a stalemate is so high that the stock market looks at this. Listen, the stock market is a genius. The stock market has the foresight that's never wrong. The stock market's looking at the 2024 elections going, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened because we have clear sailing, blue skies for the next 4 years.
If either of these men live for 4 more years,
whatever,
which at their age, statistically,
whatever, yeah,
they may not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, agreed.
Any chance of an anybody? Is there any chance of a non-Trump, non-Biden president, in your opinion?
Not anymore. I thought at first neither one would be the candidates. No, RFK is zero chance. He's equally as bad, if not worse, than those two.
I disagree with that. I disagree. Okay. I think that if RFK had a normal voice.
You think that's the only problem? The fact that he can't talk is not the only problem. The fact that he can't talk is not the only problem with him. Okay. I can list about 100 other problems with him. So no, I do not. I am not a fan.
On a relative basis, I mean, listen, you just have to be better than Biden or Trump. Anyway, I thought it was funny that they announced the debates. I find it, globally, it's going to be a humiliation. But fortunately, most Americans don't even have a passport, so they won't even know that the rest of the world is mocking the United States for its leadership.
Do you know that that's what bothers the rest of the world the most about the U.S. is that we are so ethnocentric. We are so focused on ourselves. We are such a society of like narcissists that we don't even know that the rest of the world exists, let alone what they care. That's how crazy.
75% of the United States citizens don't have a passport.
I don't know if I'd be surprised if that's accurate, but I mean, sure. But it's not even just that. It's just like nobody even understands anything about the rest of the world. Governments, currencies, markets, anything. It's crazy.
Nothing.
Nor do they care. And that bothers people. You know what bothers people? You know what bothers people in Italy and the UK and places like that? The fact that Americans don't care. They just don't care what you think.
They're not even aware that you exist to think.
That's what I said. I go. We are the most ethnocentric. We have tunnel vision. We are so focused on ourselves. We are great self-promoters, and we just don't know that anything else exists in the world. It's crazy.
There's a saying that they have in Los Angeles where they say that, that people in New York and San Francisco like to talk about how much they dislike Los Angeles. People in Los Angeles never think about people from San Francisco or New York.
Exactly.
And that's basically the United States. Like the rest of the world likes to talk about how much America irritates them, or they have some opinion about America, positive or negative. But America has no idea that the rest of the world even exists, or doesn't care, is indifferent.
Yeah. I grew up thinking, just like the New Yorker cartoon, that the United States ended at where at the end of the East River. once you crossed over the Triborough Bridge, it was, you were in the Midwest.
Exactly. All right, we got a couple minutes here. The market's going full crazy town. Are you with it or against it? What are you doing with this rally?
Oh, I'm a seller right here, but it's not working. This is going to be a record high or very close to a record high today. Off of what we made what I thought was a really interesting. We had a really interesting down move a couple weeks ago, and when the market didn't go down, when the bonds went down, it made me think that the bonds were probably going to go up, but that the market was still vulnerable. And the market strength has really surprised me. I felt like when these meme stocks finally just rolled over, which I thought it'd be more than 2 days, but when the meme stocks rolled over, that the market would rally a little bit. But I thought today was going to be a great reversal day. I thought they were going to open up on the number this morning, and then they were going to reverse. I really felt strongly they were going to reverse today. I was dead wrong.
Incorrect.
Yes,
sir.
Incorrect.
And yet you hold your short. You would not. Have you backed away from your short positions into this rally today?
It's not possible. I can't back away. I can do damage control, but I cannot back away.
There is no backing away from the current situation.
No, there's no backing away. So I'm doing a little damage control by making some adjustments, but I'm not. I can't back away.
Did you see silver, by the way?
I did not today. I will look right now. Yes, it's up wow. It's almost 30. It's almost $30. Yeah, nice call. Every once in a while, you get one right.
That was me and Vecchio. We cornered that shit.
Yeah, well, I think I will tell you this. I do think that what I did like about this meme stocks stuff, and what I do like about the last couple of days, is that there's definitely been a renewed interest in the market. All of a sudden, it woke a few people up, and not necessarily to trade GameStop or AMC. I don't think anybody really cares about those stocks. but it did wake up more than a few people to jump back into the markets. And I think that that's important. You know, like there's more players. All of a sudden, in 2 or 3 days, there's more players, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for sure it's good for business, as they say, across the board. But also the market being at all-time highs. Forget the meme stocks. Record highs always bring attention just because it moves the market to the front of the news, the front of the news. It takes you out of the financial section and into the front page of every section.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I'm hoping for is that we get a nice little, you know, the equivalent of a nice little double top here, but who knows? Maybe we won't. I don't really know.
I'm with you.
I've been trying to just trade. It's a little more difficult with vol crashing, but what are the VIX doing today? Yeah, with vol crashing, it's a little more difficult, but I'm trying.
Yeah, well, and ever since I started doing whatever Vecchio tells me, things have gotten much better for me.
I wouldn't say that out loud. I would say that I would whisper that, and
That's a secret. That's not for the public.
yeah, I wouldn't say that out loud. I don't want to scare the children because that would not work for me.
Well, also the last time that I really started singing Vecchio's praises, the whole thing fell apart for him. So
Yeah.
I may have just cursed with this public compliment.
All right. Well, as we kind of wrap things up here, because this we've gone about 40 minutes, I'm just taking a quick little scan of the markets. I would say, since we've been talking, the meme stocks have done nothing. We started off this conversation talking about them. They're kind of dead to rights today, but rest of the market, like you said, it's just crazy. So, all right, Dylan. Well, thank you so much, and
Always a pleasure.
I will see you next week, and maybe we'll have some crazy stuff to talk about again. I don't know.
And I'll be with my friends Chris Vecchio, and I think Ilya's off today, but I'm sure Chris is going to be smiling the big smile, assuming something wild doesn't happen in the next hour. You want to enjoy that.
Nothing wild is going to happen. All right. Take care.
Bye.